Ta-da! And welcome to Josef's Model Railway and Toy Room. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, just a little bit of housekeeping. You don't need to like and follow and subscribe or any of that nonsense. I just want you to join me and have a bit of fun. You're busy with all your other YouTube videos. I just want you to take a moment and see if there might be something you can pick up. And if not, at least I myself have a holly jolly great time putting these videos out there for you. So today we are going to be, of course, talking about, once again, ScaleModelScenery.com and another one of their fine products. And in this case, we're going to be talking about the anti-slip walkway pedestrian level crossing that we can use to go across our train tracks. So we're just going to have a quick brief look at that and just a couple of tips I've noticed that I think can be very useful to some of you.
Whoa, Joseph, let's just stop there for a moment if we can and let all of the wonderful viewers know that I've decided to put this into two parts. This is going to be part one, where we discuss installing and putting the wonderful pedestrian crossings in on the two sections that we've selected. And part two, which will be in the following week, we will see where we're going to add a little bit of magic to this crossing just to make it a little more realistic and interesting. But as always, we do need to do our research on any of these key projects that we do, and in which case I invite you now to have a look at some pictures. Now, just a quick Google will yield plenty of good results, and here are some great examples from the UK, which we will take some inspiration from. And of course, we make our way back to Australia, more familiar territory for me. And particularly if we make our way up to places like the Adelaide Hills and things like that, into the hills, you'll notice these pretty established concrete styles of crossings here that usually have some illumination, which will often have some slightly shorter styled street lamps to illuminate them at dark. But usually it's a nice concrete crossing with some fences and a bit of signage on some more semi-regional sections of the line, where it's up to people that still have a brain in their head to know what to do when you see a railway crossing. Now, the two locations that we have selected for these installations we're going to be talking about today, one is down toward the station end behind me, and the other one is located at the Fawlty Towers loop, which would give a nice little alternative stroll into what could be a national park where guests might go for an afternoon stroll out of the hotel, down the walkway, cross the railway crossing, and away they go. And that's pretty much what we're going to focus on today.
Well, here we go. It's a tremendous little kit picked up for just a few dollars, and away we go. So we've got this tremendous kit here, and there's really not a lot that goes with it. And it does come with some wonderful instructions, including the fact that it'll also come with what you'll need to place on top once you've got what you need. And it's done in various configurations so you can shape and create what you're going to need. It also comes with the signs that you can cut out and attach. And if you just look at the back of these signs, they've already printed it in grey. So you're going to get a good looking sign from front to back. That's a nice little step. And I think that's going to work out quite well. They'll also give you a couple of pieces of the styrene plastic rod here that we can obviously cut down and glue the signs onto. So that's an extra step you won't need to worry about. And what's great about it is it's what just elevates that little extra bit of detail in these scenes, as we've discussed on the railway crossing at the other end. It also talks about, as you come up, working with your track, depending on if you have ballast or not onto it, you can generally just stack two pieces together to give you that extra bit of height. And remember, because this has been cut with that laser cutter type of thing, the ends become quite dark brown, so you won't really need to weather that or anything. And of course the top bit, you're going to literally be applying what you've cut out. So I really think it's a nice simple project that you can do. Tip I wanted to give you was just that when they're on the sheets like this, you can see what I did. As you're taking them off, what you can do, and we'll do another one here for the sake of the demonstration, When you take it off, I generally give it a light little fold. We're just going to take some of our PVA glue. Just remembering we really don't want to use too much here. We just want a nice little strand across it. You can see that's already a little bit much in the end, but that's okay. And then all we've got to do is just fold this on itself. That one just slipped off a bit there. Just fold it on itself, make sure it's lined up and adjusted. A nice gentle press down. Wipe off any excess if there is. And just let that dry, and you've got some nice long sections ready to break up as needed. And if you need to have that additional height. Of course, coming off from the sleepers, generally you won't. But here comes the next tip I wanted to share with you. Of course, when it comes to laying down the top, really all you're going to need is a good pair of scissors to cut along. And when you take your PVA, my tip is do make sure that you've gently just used your finger and rubbed it everywhere for a nice even coverage. There's nothing worse than in 4 or 5 years time the corners can start to peel up. But if that's been done in the PVA, you won't have to worry about that at all. Since I have this rather fitting little edge here, I thought actually I might just slot a crossing down to go across here, since it goes down into a section that would be practical to have some foot traffic, mostly for the workers. The sign would obviously say staff only, and we might just tricky a fence around it. But this would be, out of the entire layout, one of the best places for it, because the tracks still remain reasonably straight, although I think what we're going to do is go over here and then straight across. And this is more so for workers that come in and then head down toward the shed or working in that direction. What I wanted to point out though is, while this looks like quite a good fit to put it on here, I may well change my mind with any of this walkway that we're doing, and I might not like it there. So I thought what would be a better solution for this, since it sits quite nicely, what we're actually going to do in this instance is use some Micromark detail tack. Now this is a really interesting product, as I've mentioned in other videos, and is what I usually do to the figures. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take the tile, apply a bit of the glue and rub it in. We leave it overnight so it's completely dried, but it stays tacky. In other words, we can stick the tile down, it'll sit there nicely and not move, and then in the future if there's something and we lift it off, it just lifts off. There's no residue, there's no nothing, and it will continue to remain sticky so we can keep carrying on with our project. I think it's a wonderful way to go and worth checking out, as opposed to PVA and then it's pretty much a permanent bond. So this is a good product to look at should you be going in that direction. So as you can see here, we're starting to build a few modules up, and we just glue the bottoms down with what you need. I think it's just worth pointing out the 2 sheets that you get are indeed 2 different sizes. What they want you to do is the thinner one here is what you're going to use to build up the bottom, and then the top one is what you will put on the top to create that finish. And as you can see, is the one that will fit over the overlay that they want, as opposed to that smaller one, which of course is much smaller. So in the sections that I'm going, you can see where I've had to create a little bit of additional height where required. The stuff is reasonably easy to cut and manipulate as needed. We're actually just taking a little bit at the moment to create a step for where our station is. You really don't need much glue, and I will point out that of course we are just using the fast bonding quick set PVA glue, but it's quicker than you may think as I go along working with it. By the time I've joined something together and start preparing the next scene, it's completely dry, solid, ready to go. Again, as always, you won't need much at all. So the construction method is really nothing too amazing, just a matter of snipping out and gluing a series of these tiles together in the shape that you need. So here we are at the Fawlty Towers loop, and we'll create this crossing here. A straight ruler, I think, does go a long way, just making sure you're staying on the level. But make sure you do keep that clearance just right for the flanges on your rolling stock, and just keep checking it as well. So you want to make sure that it's not going to get ripped up when you rub whatever cleaning method you do over the top of your rails. Weighting everything down is always a good thing. Remember, I'm spanning a bit of a chasm there at the moment. And of course, this isn't going to be 100% finished. We will come back in with additional scenery as needed. Now you'll notice here in this particular section, I did take the screwdriver and I just hacked it out a little bit just to create more of a bit of a stormwater runoff drain system that we would typically see here. I also just dusted it over with a bit of realistic water. To lift it up a little bit, I did use the evergreen styrene H-style girder beams, applied a little bit of a rusty style paint to them, and then sat them into place, which lifted it up both nicely and gave me the height that I was chasing. Well, it's the moment of truth. We're now going to remove everything and see how this walkway across the feature section has turned out. My biggest concern is, will it be straight? It was a bit tricky getting some of this glued down. So let us now do our grand reveal, shall we? Well, here it is. And between you and me, that doesn't look too bad at all. Better do the official test. That's a pass. That's a pass. That's a pass. That's a pass. Well, I'm very happy with how that's turned out. And I'm aware that this may seem an extreme situation to be crossing over for, but mostly this walkway is for our track maintenance people, because if we head down on this section here is where some workers will be. The siding and the two main lines are important, but we're not quite done yet.
Yes, that's starting to look very, very good indeed. Well, girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always for joining me today. Look, please do stick around next week when we're going to add what I like to call a little bit of magic to what we're doing with these pedestrian crossings. But until then, please do stay safe and we'll see you in the next one. Toodles!